Welcome to What is Going On for new thought from the edge of Om. Each week on Om Time's flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Om. Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. What if education wasn't just about knowledge, but about expanding consciousness? What if communication wasn't limited to Earth, but extended across the cosmos? And what if plants, animals, and crystals were key to our evolution? Joining me today is educator, futurist, world peace ambassador, visionary dreamer, and co-founder of the Interstellar Community Foundation, Jeanne White Eagle, whose book, Eyes Open, Looking for the 12, offers a blueprint for a future where humanity evolves in harmony with the Earth, the cosmos, and the forces that guide us. Jeanne White Eagle, welcome.
Pleasure to be here, Sandie. Thank you.
So, Eyes Open, Looking for the 12. There's an intriguing title that I'm sure has elicited many, many cries of pick me, pick me. So is that the kind of response you get to this book?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So you've now got more than 12.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So this all started with a recurring dream that you had, which is pivotal to this conversation, to the book, to everything that you're doing. But I just want to hold that bit about the dream for the moment and tell us what you were doing before you put your full attention on this.
Before I put my full attention on this, I was still involved with efforts that had to do with creating a better world. In my piece, for instance, I had the privilege of becoming part of the Up With People organization, and we traveled the world. I was with one of the original cast, and the whole idea with it was that people can live together. They can honor each other's differences, and that makes us stronger rather than weaker. And so I was involved with them for quite a number of years. I married one of the extraordinary musical geniuses from the group, and with him had two amazing children, and spent the middle part of my life raising a family. But I also was in the corporate world for quite some time, and always focused on what can I do to help make things better. And it was when I was in the corporate world that I became part of the World Business Academy, whose focus was on this as well, just in a different way. But this is where I met my present husband and partner, and without whom any of what I have dreamed would be able to come about. Let's just say that it's been an adventure. I remember as a child, people would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "An adventurer." An explorer. And it was, yeah, right. And yeah.
Okay. So tell us about this recurring dream. What was it about and when did it start?
It started when I was in my teen years, and I don't remember the exact year. I'm going to say around the age of 16. And it was a dream because I've always dreamed a lot. And this one just kept coming back. It would go away for a few weeks, then it would come back. And go away for a few weeks, then it would come back. And that went on into my visa. So for more than 2 decades, I'm getting a recurring dream, and I didn't know what it was. I'm standing, there were 2 scenes that were in it, always the same scenes. I was standing at the foot of what looked like a low mountain or a very high hill, and on the hill were these very futuristic buildings, and I could see the buildings clearly. And then suddenly I would be inside one of the buildings, and I would be in what we might describe as a hallway in a university or a school, because we were passing each other as though we're going to class or going somewhere where we're going to learn. But what was different is I noticed that the people that I'm passing are not all human. They are different species. And it was like a scene out of Star Trek or perhaps Star Wars. And those were the two scenes. At the foot of the hill, seeing the buildings, and then the next being in the hallway and seeing all these other species. And it was a very natural interaction that was taking place in that second scene. And this went on for, as I say, around 2 decades or a little more. Then it went away, and I began to forget about it because I was raising a family and getting involved with doing what was necessary to raise the family to make a living. I had divorced at that time, and so it was not until 2009, and 2009, I'm in my 60s at the time. Is that right? Yeah. I just, for the record, just turned 81 this past December. So not getting older, I'm becoming newer. But when the dream reappeared, suddenly I'm given information. And I remember waking up one morning and I'm hearing, "You're to build a university." But I got it very clearly that this was not a university as most of us would think of university. In my lexicon, it was the only thing that meant there was some kind of sophisticated education that was going on here. Then I began to see more and more pieces of it. And what I was receiving as I was being told that education systems as we know them will begin to fall away, and that this particular, what I was being shown, would be a way to take a human being from the time of birth right on through that human's life, on into moving out of the physical body. So it's from birth to birth. It's the way we like to describe it. And in that process, everything that this human comes in with, all of the gifts, all of the talents, all that are perhaps dormant at the time, that is what I was told that this particular facility was to do, was to help a human become everything he or she is meant to be, raising the consciousness as high as it could go. And that in the process, what would occur is that all of the dramas that humans have so wonderfully created over all the many eons would begin to fall away. Then the consciousness would be raised to such a high frequency that humans would move on and continue to evolve into the beings that they were meant to be from the beginning. Now, that's only one piece of it, because the other piece of it is, as this happens, then interaction with the cosmic community becomes a very natural thing, and interaction with species coming in from other systems, other dimensional systems, becomes a very natural thing. And yeah, so this is where we're headed.
So we'll get to all of that a little bit later. When did this stop being a dream and start to become something far more solid?
Right. It was when I saw what I was to do. I was to bring the people together, to share with them what it was that I had seen, was to find the others on this planet that may have had a similar dream or something, which is why when I said looking for the 12 is the byline to the title on my book. There was a reading that was done on the dream some time ago by an extraordinary seer, and she said there are at least 12 others that have seen close to what you've seen. Well, I found more than 12, and we're beginning to see that perhaps that was a metaphor. And there are all kinds of metaphoric meanings that could go to 12. I mean,
well, actually, they go to 13. And the number 13 is very significant in this concept, isn't it? Because you're the 13th person if you're going to count it literally as 12.
It like that. Yeah.
So tell us about, I mean, there are so many themes in this story, in this creation. Tell us about the numerology and the symbolism.
Yeah, that's the way, that's a good question, because that allows me to say that as the pieces were coming to me and I was being given clarity, and I write about this in the book, my husband and I have for quite a number of years worked very closely with an extraordinary Native American mentor, mystic, beautiful painted arrow, Joseph Ryle. And in working with him, what we began to learn is the symbolism, the power of the symbolism, and the talking about the four directions, talking about the five directions: the east, the south, the west, the north, the up above and down below, which is the center. And if you look at that as a mandala, then you have got the four primary circles with the fifth one in the center. And so it's an interesting way that the universe found to help me see the clarity of what I was being shown, because I'm walking down a little country road in Germany one morning and I screamed out. I mean, in the country, and all that was around were the sheep and the cows, and I thought, they're not going to mind. So I just screamed it out. I said, show me more, give me clarity, show me more. And suddenly what appeared in front of me were these five gigantic circles, all in the east, the south, the west, the north, with the center. And there were the five circles. And I thought, oh my goodness, I have been working with this for many years. Now I see what they're showing me. And that's when I began to see that in the dream, the recurring dream, I had been seeing circular buildings in the recurring dream. But remember, when this started, it was back in my teen years, and we didn't meet Joseph until I was in my 50s. So this had been gestating, all this had been gestating inside me for all these decades. And when I saw these circles, I immediately went back to where I was staying and drew them out. And I began to see what they had been showing me. And with each, for anyone that works with the directions, there is a very specific energy that is involved with each of the directions. And what I was being shown was in this facility that would be built, whatever goes on in the east would be focused toward more mental. Anything that would have to do with mental capacities, anything focused in the south would be focused on emotional growth and maturity. Anything focused in the west would be focused on physical, and that could include yoga. As a matter of fact, anything focused in the north would include the spiritual, and that the center would be where there would be a lot of interaction that would go on between the children and the elders, because they complete the circle. And this is about the up above and down below. Also, now keep in mind that, and there's a lot that goes on in each one of these buildings, a lot. There's a certain frequency that is set up inside all of these buildings. But what I was shown is that if it is done like I was shown, it will create a specific frequency that forms a signal, a beacon. They come together in pyramids on the top of the facility. We're calling it a university. I don't know that that's what it will continue to be called. We've had somebody said, what you're building is Starfleet Academy, if anybody knows anything for Star Trek. But what we discovered and what I was shown is that the center of each of the buildings comes together in the center and forms a pyramid. And there's actually more than one pyramid, but they all come together in the center, and they send a beacon into deep space. And that's one of those. It's a little bit like, I guess, at an airport when a plane's trying to find where to go and where to come in to the
It's a signal.
To the signal to bring in and let those know where we are. And these particular facilities I was shown were going to go up all over the world. And these species from other systems would come in, and inside the facility, I was actually shown how certain species would be welcomed. There would be those that would have to adapt to our gravity, those that would have to adapt to our climate. And I was given detail on all of this. And I put it in the book. And forgive me, it must be like drinking from a fire hose to hear even this bit that I'm giving to you, because there is an enormous amount of detail that is with it, but it did come. But here's the wonderful thing, is there are these extraordinary souls on the planet now that know that somehow they are part of manifesting this, because it has to do with helping humanity evolve to its next natural stage.
And there's one wonderful soul who's no longer with us, who was part of this, and that's Edgar Mitchell.
Yes. Edgar Mitchell, he was very dear. Before we knew Edgar, we knew Willis Harman. I had met Willis Harman, who, for those who don't know, was the president of the Institute of Noetic Sciences. And Willis had been part of the World Business Academy, and that's how Willis and I met. And he became one of my dearest friends, and later one of my husband's dearest friends. And Willis passed, and when he did, and the dream came back, I kept saying, Willis, I really wish I had you to talk with and just hash out some of what's coming in. And I remember sitting, and I write about this in the book, by the way. I remember sitting in a double swing out in the yard one day. And I said, Willis, I miss you. And I heard, I'm right here. And suddenly I thought, I had chills just go over me. I felt this presence. And I started talking with Willis the way we used to have these wonderful conversations. And what happened over a period of days is it wasn't my asking Willis anything. It was Willis asking me. He was getting me to, he was teaching me how to articulate what it was that I had seen. And on one of these mornings, I heard then that now it's time for you to get in touch with Edgar Mitchell. And I didn't know Edgar. And I had a friend locate an email address that I was able to send a message to. And I sent him, actually, I think it was a letter. And I sent him a letter. And I told him that I was good friends of one of his best friends, because he's the one that founded the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and he's who brought Edgar in. And Edgar's immediate response to me was, let's give this a go. And so we began speaking, and I shared with him and kind of fumbled through, still learning how to articulate about the vision. And it was during one of those conversations that I said, Edgar, I'm going to write a book. And in the book, I'm going to put as much detail as I have at the moment. And let's not have another conversation until I've got this book written. So, and then we can use it as a launching pad. And that's how it happened. And Edgar, the more he learned about the vision, the more he knew. He's the one that actually said, this sounds like a blueprint for humanity. And so the rest of it is history.
So tell us a little bit more about what we will find in these universities. I love the word, universe.
Yes, exactly.
And a city. Yeah. Yes, it's for everybody. But you're using things like sound and vibration and crystals to create a multi-dimensional facility, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, and humans are learning this, and forgive me, everybody, for speaking of humans in third person, but quite often that's how I feel, because I'm not really sure how much human DNA is in me. The more I learn about what I was shown, but the use of sound is fundamental to all of the sections of the university. Everything is vibration. Vibration is sound. And I actually teach workshops on this. So when, for instance, you would enter into, let's say, into the South, which is about the emotion, that's where humans will be helped to deal with their emotions, how, to deal with how you relate with, not just with other people and other circumstances, but with yourself. And with that is sound. Sound can help to balance. It can help to imbalance. It helps to create. It helps to discreate. But walking into that particular section, for instance, of the university, there would be a frequency that would help to balance all that is going on there, so that as a person it's, for instance, Sandie, it's where those who have had a lot of trauma, that's where the trauma would be dealt with.
Mm.
And the sound, actually, one of the things I wrote in the book is that throughout the entire university, there is going to be sound. It may be subtle, but it will be there. It's the frequency that is being set to help raise the frequency of every human that enters
Are you
in there.
using color as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Because, color is sound. It is sound. And the colors are going to be extraordinarily important. And with that, and let me just say something about the crystals. I was shown that, crystals are another life form. And the more humans learn about crystals, the more we will realize that we've got some extraordinary allies on this planet. But crystals, there will be crystals in the walls. There will be crystals that have very specific focus, very specific responsibilities, I guess is one way to say it. Because let me share it without confusing people, I hope. But if you've got, let's say you've got the 4 primary buildings and the center building, connecting one of the primary buildings to the center is what's called a bridge building. And that's just what connects them, so that you can walk from one into the other. In the bridge buildings are going to be very specific crystals. So that, let's say you have been in the South where you've been working with trauma, right? And now you want to go into and do something physical. Let's say you want to go into the West, where perhaps yoga might be taught. So you're moving. You don't go straight from the South over to the West without going through something that will help you to digest all of the frequency and all that has just happened in the South building, in the emotional building. So you're moving to the West, and in that you're also moving through a frequency field, a vibrational field that helps you to adjust to all the different frequencies that you are encountering. And forgive me, I just encourage people, read the book. It's spelled out a little bit more clearly in the book.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But it's extraordinary, extraordinary. I mean, when we think back to I'll call them mythologies because nobody knows for certain, but about Atlantis and Lemuria, they had, chambers that they used the sound, they used the color, they used the crystals, healing chambers.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're rebuilding.
Yeah, well, it's one of the reasons that didn't work. And Plato, I mentioned Plato in this. I think he was on target with some of what he surmised when he wrote about this. And
Who wrote about it? We just lost you a little bit there.
Plato.
Oh, Plato. Yes.
Yeah, right. He described it fairly well too. That what happened in Atlantis is they got so involved in the technology and the sophistication of the technology that they forgot to garden the heart. And that's how I say it in the book. They forgot to garden the heart. So the ego began to take over in Atlantis, and it became a superficial interaction that occurred with people, and they forgot. And I see how it happens. They forgot who they were. and it, for however it occurred, whether it was natural disaster, whether it doesn't matter. The point is that they almost got there, but they didn't. And one of the things that and my husband is, and now the whole community is very clear on, in building what we are now, it's going to be imperative the humans clear themselves of angers, rages, prejudices in that. And so how do you do that? You do it daily. And in Native American terms, we say clear the hollow bone. So it may mean writing a letter of apology to someone. It may mean, just simply saying, I'm sorry. But the idea is to clear the self of anything that may be keeping you from hearing what the higher self is saying and doing. The Norwegians, because we've done a lot of workshops on this too, and the Norwegians are so cute, they say, it's like having a banana in the didgeridoo. The didgeridoo will not play if you've got a banana. So it's like for humans to be fully who they are and who they can be, you got to keep this clear. And it's not about the country needs to do it, the government needs it. It's about the individual, I as the individual, because we are the ones that make up the countries and the governments, etc. So, but that is going to be one of the most crucial pieces inside of what is given in
I'm going to hold you there, Jeanne, because we're going to take a short break. You're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and my guest today is educator, futurist, world peace ambassador, visionary dreamer, and co-founder of the Interstellar Community Foundation, Jeanne White Eagle. And we're discussing her book, Eyes Open, Looking for the 12, which offers a blueprint for a future where humanity evolves in harmony with the earth, the cosmos, and the forces that guide us. We'll be back with more from Jeanne White Eagle in just a few moments. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of Times flagship radio show What is Going On, and as an author, editor and 13 times book judge who's read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors, I'm constantly asked what's really worth reading and what's not. So I created the No BS Spiritual Book Club to help you save time and money by picking the brains of discerning names who've walked this path before you. There's no catch, no fees and no BS. Just an ever-growing library of 10 best spiritual book lists from some of your favourite authors and teachers, plus free book excerpts, audios and video interviews with people like Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., David G., Lee Harris, Mark Nepo and more. From well-known classics to hidden gems you've never heard of, it's the only no BS guide to the best spiritual books to enlighten your journey of self-discovery. So why not join the club? Get inspired and save money at the nobsspiritualbookclub.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
Everything that we do, we can do in a contemplative manner. Through the art of contemplation, you can use the gene keys in a really powerful way. Gene Keys is basically the code book of life. In the Gene Keys, the book is made up of these 3 levels: shadows, gifts, and siddhis. And the journey is through those 3 levels, kind of unpicking of the shadow states, the releasing of the gifts, and then the embodying of this higher consciousness called the Siddhi. And the Siddhis are very exalted words, and it's not like we kind of suddenly are all these exalted Christ-like beings, but we have flashes and illuminations along the journey, and the more we get stuck into the journey, the more illumination comes to us, because the more we're releasing the light from in these codes inside our DNA. So all those revelations are inside us. So the contemplative way is the inner way.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. Jeanne White Eagle. Crystals. You talk about the crystals as creating space-time portals. How do crystals do that?
You'll have to ask them. I don't know.
Did they tell you this? We trust them to tell the truth.
What I do know is, and I want to get to know her better, but Dahani Wahoo of the Wahoo clan of the Cherokee, I had the privilege of meeting her many years ago, and I need to get back in touch with her because I believe she has, and her people, have some of the wisdom that can help us as we move forward on this. But one of the things that I learned from Dahani is, and let me just say that she shared that the Wahoo clan were here to watch over and protect the crystals on this planet. She said, you can be holding the smallest crystal like this, and it will have the energy, the power of an atom bomb. And most people don't know what they're doing when they are working with crystals in this way. So I myself, I work with them intuitively, but I am certainly not a master in working with these dear life forms. And I call them life forms because they have a different base, but they are alive. And for anybody that is around crystals, you know that there is a certain frequency that they will emit. They're communicating when this occurs. And so, yeah. So I can't speak as an expert on this, but we will bring those in who do know. And Dahani is one of these that I hope we can bring in.
So you also talk about universe cities surrounding. There's going to be these small communities. What are they designed to do?
Well, I'm laughing because I remember how that name even came up. We were doing a gathering in Germany one year, and it was during one of the meal times, and there was a group of women, of maybe about 5 or 6 women, that were sitting together way down at the end of the long table that we were eating at, and they all just started laughing. And so I asked them, I said, what are you guys laughing about? And they said, we know the name that you're to call this, Universe Cities. And the name stuck because I thought, of course. And what has happened over time is I realized, with the university, again, whatever we end up calling it, around it is going to be the supporting communities. And this will happen around the world. So I began to see universities. Okay. And that began so that's how that came into play.
So you talk about these sustainable communities. I mean, you see these around Findhorn. There's Findhorn, which is the center where everybody lives. And then you've got Findhorn, the larger, greater Findhorn, if you like, the kind of the community that's been built up around it that isn't, on the same premises. So is that exactly what you see happening?
Well, it's It'll probably be something similar to that, because what I was given was the actual facility of the Interstellar University. In the book, by the way, it's called, for those who don't know, I call it University and Interstellar Communication Centers and UICCs. We changed the name of it because one of our very dear friends kept spitting every time she said, University and Interstellar Communication Center. So we changed it, made it simpler. But yeah, what was I just
You lost your thread.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
Oh, good.
Let me ask you another question.
Okay.
You say that they exist on multiple planes, requiring a holographic mindset to fully grasp its scope.
Yes.
That sounds tough to me. What is a holographic mindset? And, I thought I grasped it, but maybe I haven't, because I'm not sure I've got one of those.
Well, another way to say it, it's actually how I perceive reality most of the time, which can pose questions at times, but we ask people just be willing to expand a little bit and see spherically, and that it's like all time, future, present, and past. It's all here. It's all right here now, but it's hard for our minds to wrap around what that can actually mean when we're living in a space where we work in linear space, linear time. And so when I go into speaking about spherical, I am just suggesting that use your imagination and begin to see that it's all right here. And when it's holographic, what we're seeing is, in the case of the university, it already exists. It already exists. And it exists on the different planes. It's the idea. What we are doing is creating the environment where we can bring it into physical reality. But Sandie, the best thing I can share with anybody is use your imagination. If you're not quite sure, where's this going? What does this mean? And I suggest, take a deep breath and allow yourself to expand out and move beyond the boundaries and see what is on the other side. And then you begin to discover there are no sides. That's the other thing. So, but I guess we could save that for another conversation.
So if you're going to be sending out these signals, inviting all of our galactic relatives to come visit, what happens, how some of them may not even have the kind of structure that allows them to thrive on this planet or communicate with us. How do you deal with that?
Right. That I actually write about that as well. I was just shown that there were, and we're talking sizes, big, little, minuscule, whatever. We're talking those that may not necessarily be in physical form, but may be in
an energetic template?
Yeah, that's a very good way to describe it. Thank you. Yes. And that's part of what is inside, by the way. There's a whole area inside the Interstellar University, and most of it actually is underneath it's down in the lower part, down in the earth itself, because the earth herself is going to help with whatever transitions need to occur. But there are going to be, and I wrote about this, I was shown, there are those that won't necessarily come in on a ship. They may just show up. They, like Scotty beam me down kind of thing. And so, and I was shown that there are, this is again where, as you pointed out, the crystals will help too, creating energetic portals through which those coming in from other dimensional spaces can enter into our space. And this, one of the things that we talked about when I was speaking with Edgar, I says, this is going to sound like science fiction. to so many people. But then we have to stop and realize how much of our science fiction then becomes our science as time progresses.
As it already has.
As it already has. That's exactly right. That's
Yes.
exactly right. So is this going to happen tomorrow? Well, we can talk about that as well, but there are some things that have to happen in the collective consciousness before what I've seen could ever survive.
Do you have a location for the first one?
We have several that are being considered, one in Peru, possibly two. We've looked at an area in Western Australia, which is another one. We just very recently got an invitation to come and look at somewhere that's up in Western Canada. And these are meant to go up, around the world. And I was told that they would start on 3 to 5 continents. But there is a community in Mexico, in the Yucatan area, that is very interested in possibly establishing one of the universities and get that in place and then build what it was today.
Do you feel that you're going to need the help of different governments to get this going, or are you relying on, all of these members of the 12?
Grassroots.
Yeah,
grassroots is where, I'm sure there's going to be some kind of dance that's going to have to occur. However, that's for that, again, to get caught in political dialogue is something that those that will carry on after I've moved out of this body are going to have to be very aware of and not get caught in the traps. I mean, God help you.
There are many.
Yeah, and there are many. Yes. But it's to keep pulling up above. I think that we have a lot of star beings that are helping us right now from different systems that are part of manifesting this vision. Because
do you think that we are ready to join the greater galactic community? Do you think humanity is ready for it?
I think many are, and I think it's already happening. And it's not something that can be stopped. It's happening. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of the drama that's being played out now. A lot of the drama that's being played out now is a result of fear that is moving into the consciousness of those who are afraid to change. And so, there are all kinds of scenarios that are attempting to play themselves out. But I think ultimately, Sandie, it's inevitable. It is moving into a higher frequency, a higher vibration, and we are getting a lot of help from many different beings, from many different systems. Yeah.
You say that the children are going to play a pivotal role, and they're going to help guide the adults towards a more intuitive and connected future.
Yeah. I think it's important to recognize that the children coming in, it's not just this particular generation, it's one that came in just before, even that of my own children were coming in already awake and very aware. And if you watch the children now, ask their help. Ask their ideas. I mentioned in one of the earlier interviews with you around books. I bring up John Hunter's book on world peace and other fourth grade achievements. And what he had done is he pitched out the world problems to his fourth graders, and they created a game where they came up with solutions that not even those in the Pentagon and everywhere else could come up with. These kids came up with solutions because what they were doing is they saw everything as a whole. They weren't just taking poverty or just taking hunger or whatever. They took all of it as a whole and were working with that and came up with solutions. But it was the children. And that's, every day, My husband teases me, but I watch baby clips on YouTube for a few minutes every day, just so I can see the new souls that have come in and the innocence that is there. And if people begin to recognize these children do have wisdom, we guide them in certain things, but our job is also to listen to them and let them guide us.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do we think that because they're in small bodies, they don't know anything?
Yeah, and the other thing, Sandie, are the elders, because the elders are getting ready to leave their bodies, and of course the young ones have just come in to their bodies. So one of the things I was shown was the interaction between the elders and the children and that's why I said it's a circle. It completes the circle. And if you pay attention to the interaction that goes on with them, between them, the wisdom that's passed back and forth, we could learn a lot and, keep ourselves out of some of the crazy traps we get ourselves into.
So all these people who have answered the call for the 12, who knows how many there are, 1,200, 12,000, I don't know. What are they actually doing to support this vision? Do you have people on the ground that are raising money, others that are spreading the word? How are they engaging in this?
Well, the truth is that we have not really gone into a lot of interaction with them, more than I'm aware that they're here, because I myself am getting ready to transition out of this role and turn it to the younger ones that are going to carry it. They're already stepping forward to do this. But to your question, I'm thinking of a young man who's in Israel whom I need to get in touch with very soon, who is an artist. And we were doing a workshop in Israel on one of our visits there. And he came up to me afterwards. He said, "Let me show you something." And he had paintings that he had done, and they were of the buildings that I had seen. But this is what he had received, and they were quite beautiful. And we have interacted and shared information. So we're just kind of pulling information as it's come in. But there's an older person here in the United States who, what she was seeing, and she didn't know what she was seeing, and she drew them out, were all of these ships that were in the upper atmosphere. And what she was seeing was like an energy elevator coming down, but she couldn't see where the energy elevator was going. She saw the detail of the ships and drew them out, and they're quite detailed. And then, so when she heard me speak on the vision, she said, that's where the elevators are going, because many of those, particularly the hybrid children, are not able to perhaps stay on our planet for very long, so they can move back up to a more safer environment for them in one of the ships. But she was seeing energy elevators come down. That's another discussion that we could have at some point. Yeah, and we've got another extraordinary, brilliant woman who said, "I have seen that what I have seen." She does a lot of work with goodwill, I guess is a way to say that, goodwill efforts in bringing peoples together. And she had seen something very similar. So I think the 12 is metaphoric. We could be looking at 12 million, who knows?
Do you hold group meditation sessions where you are visualizing this and bringing it into form?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Can anyone join those?
Yeah, we're going, when I said just a few minutes ago that we're going through a transition right now, John and I are going to be turning over the actual operation and bringing into the physical realm this vision, because it's not going to be long before we're going to get on the ship ourselves. And I want to know that we will have put into place all that we can to make sure it moves on in a really good way. So that's where that is at the moment. So I guess the best thing I can say is stay tuned. Anybody that would like to be on our mailing list, we are happy to have you on our mailing list. And we do a newsletter, and we can keep you up to date that way. And you may see how you can play, what part you might want to play. Soon, we're going to be looking for those that want to physically move into the community environment that we will be building, which I probably think is going to be in Mexico first.
So you just said that, you think you and John are getting ready to beam up at some point in the not too distant future. Does it bother you that you won't be around to see it?
Oh, no, I'll be around. I'll just be on the other side. That's all. Yeah, I have to tell you, I may have shared this with you before. For any of you that may be listening or watching this, I suggest that you form a council, and the council be made up of those that you have deep respect for in their knowledge, in their wisdom, in their character, and create a council. None of those on my council are walking around in the physical body. And Edgar is on my council, and and Lawrence Bloom, I brought him up before, is on my council. Willis Harmon is on my council. Gandhi is on my council.
So people can say, I want Jeanne on my council.
Yeah, wait till I'm out of the body. And I would be happy to, because everything is here now.
Yeah.
And those that have moved into a different energetic space are they're still here. They're still here, but they're everywhere. So that's another conversation we can have sometime.
Unfortunately, we're almost out of time now. Is there one thing that you would like to share with our viewers and listeners before you go? One important thing?
Keep seeing through the eyes of love, no matter the circumstances. Keep seeing through the eyes of love, and love will guide you. That's what the Atlanteans forgot.
Yes. Jeanne White Eagle, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Sandie.
So you can find more information about Eyes Open, Looking for the 12, and about Jeanne White Eagle's other books at JeanneWhiteEagle.com, and that's JeAnne. And you can learn more about the ICF at Interstellar Community Foundation.org. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I'll be back at the same time next week with another edition of What is Going On. Till then, it's goodbye from me.